welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
All right, first and foremost, Plan 2030. Give me a feel for how we got to this point in terms of the need for such a plan, and what is it really?
Yes, well, first of all, to context it and by saying that we are acting on instructions. In other words, we've been inserted at a certain point. We ourselves did not originate the thinking or the idea. However, we know that, and this was disclosed at the launch, that the social partners who are around the table with the government many months ago made representation which was agreed by all, that Grenada needed to have in place a strong long-term plan that was not vulnerable to changes in political parties and so on. In other words, something that constitute a mainstay for the people of Grenada that all of us could subscribe to, could build our hopes on, notwithstanding where we might stand or sit or position ourselves relative to political parties. So that is the context. I think the second point regarding context had to do with the reality of having to reckon with the demands of putting the economy right. And so that is important because, as everybody would know, we are in the middle of a structural adjustment program. And that will generate all sorts of energies. One of them would be a very emotional concern, I think, that there is so much pain attaching to these things, so much frustration and so on, that really we ought to try and do better to avoid the situation where we have, and in our case in Grenada, we are talking about 2 structural adjustment programs in 20 years. So that is really pointing to some significant problems in our economy and certainly in the management of the economy. So that is in terms of the context. I think it is, having recognized the context, I think the decision to move towards having a plan is a correct course of action, and this is why we are now engaged in this work to produce with the people of Grenada a plan that they would approve, a plan that would reflect their aspirations and dreams for a better Grenadian society, a better Grenadian economy, and so on and so on.
Okay, and Pettifer, your thoughts too as well on the evolution of the plan in terms of us getting to this point. I think Willie mentioned that we would have been interjected at some point and this would have started years ago.
I think what you're saying is that this idea came about from the social partners. I mean, one might ask, haven't Grenada had national plans before?
Right.
And the answer is yes. There have been several plans. One fairly recently, 2007, and then updated in 2011, but has not been implemented. And the whole issue is the question of ownership and buy-in. And we think that if a plan is done where you have the involvement of all and ownership of all, then it would be something that would be monitored by all and ensure that it is implemented for the benefit of the country. So it's not just having a consultant come and do a plan and then it's left on the shelf, but rather we all come together and devise this plan for our own future.
Okay, so at this point we're here and moving forward. What has been happening in terms of shaping, molding, sculpturing at this point in time in terms of this plan? What has been happening in recent times?
Yes, well, in the wake of the launch of the plan project, two bodies were set up. One is called a technical working group. That essentially be the team of drafters, people drawn from several different disciplines, and the steering committee, which is a governance body. We serve on the steering committee. Now, because we're a governance body, the responsibility and mandate is ours to establish some critical foundation issues regarding the plan, and to guide the process from conception to the delivery of a plan at the level of the Parliament of Grenada. So our initial work, which has now gone on for a number of months, we in that period of time we concentrated a lot on establishing certain things. One of them is we wanted to be very clear regarding the process itself. What should that process be? We wanted to be very clear as to the means by which, or the methods we would use to involve the Grenadian people, both at home and abroad. I'm sure we will talk about that in a little more detail later on. But just to say at this point, having raised it, that we are describing this aspect of the work as contributors forums. We are not calling them consultations, which many people are familiar with and which has become, in a sense, stigmatized in negative ways. So we are hoping to have what we call contributors forums. So to lay it out a bit on that point, we are planning to engage the Ghanaian people at several different levels. Through these contributors forums. One level would be the general public, that is to say people at the level of the communities, and for which purpose we are thinking at the parish level. Then another category would be the stakeholders, all of the bodies that are represented on the social partners grouping, that they as individual entities would want to make, we anticipate, their own submissions to the steering committee and the technical working group on what they would like to see in the plan. So that's two groups already. The third group would be the youth. We want to be able to talk to young people directly and separately, so that there will be forums, I think the better English might be fora, for dedicated to young people of Grenada. And of course it includes Carriacou and Petit Mahatic. And the fourth group would be professionals. There are certain professional groups in Grenada, and there are groups of people who are professionals but who do not belong to groups. But our thinking is that we need to hear from them nonetheless, and so the opportunity is going to be provided to them to make submissions for the development of the plan. And then the fifth category is what we call persons of interest. There will be individuals in Grenada who have very strong views and constructive views as to how they would like to see the country go. People who are development thinkers in their own right, people who are deeply concerned about the state of the Ghanaian society and so on, and might have ideas that they wish to express but may not belong to a professional group, may not be particularly happy about going to the public contributors forum, and so that we want to provide the opportunity for all these people to have their say, to contribute their ideas and their inputs to that. So that element of it, that aspect of it is, we spend some time as a foundation issue, sorting out who we are going to target in terms of obtaining the ideas that we need. And as I say that, just for clarity, as we speak, there is no plan. We've encountered a view already elsewhere that suggests, that there's a plan somewhere that we have and so on. There is no plan.
There's a plan to form a plan.
Yes, when we go out in the public domain, essentially we're going with empty slates. And we ask the people to write on the slate. Generally. There might be an occasion or two where we put something on offer. All right, a suggestion to the people that here is something you may wish to consider, and have them exchange views regarding that. They may accept it, they may want to amend it, and so on. That might be the case regarding the draft vision that we have come up with.
Okay.
We want to offer it to the public at the right time, so that they can feedback on that.
So at the moment now, you said there is no plan, and I understand this, but basically what is happening now, and maybe Petifer can come in here, you're working on the process, the way forward, how with all the sectoral representation here, the approach, even before we get to the various levels of feedback.
Yes. Let me just add that in working on the process, we also determined and agreed in terms of how we should engage each other. Because as you are aware, the committee comprises political parties, the main political parties, the trade union, and the civil society, and the private sector. So we have basically agreed on some ground rules, for want of a better expression, on how we should engage each other, so that we are respectful of each other and that we discuss ideas, as opposed to who are the ones generating the ideas. We have also looked at having more youth involvement in terms of observing the process and learning from the process. So at our future meetings, once we have agreed on all the parameters on the engagement, we will have a number of youth involved in terms of observing and monitoring our engagement. We have looked at, like Mr. Joseph said, a draft vision, tagline. We're looking at being better, higher, stronger together. The emphasis is on us all working together. We have also offered a number of core values, which includes like respect for fundamental rights and freedom, commitment to the protection of the disadvantaged and poor, the vulnerable of our society, of the environment, about individual freedoms and rights, just to name a few. We have looked at the justification for the plan, which I think Mr. Joseph outlined some of it, and the question of the benefit that we will have by having a plan. And one of the benefits would be that it's something, like I mentioned before, that we have worked on, and it is going to be a simple plan, and we will talk about the type of plan that we're looking at. We're not looking at a 4,000-page plan that will stay on a shelf. We're looking at a simple plan where the ordinary man could monitor it and see, we agree to do this, this is not happening. And it is something, we make it very clear that the plan is owned by the people. And while political parties and government would use the plan in terms of ensuring that they deliver what the Grenadian people want, that no one could claim it as theirs, and it is initiating from them.
Right. So
thank you, Roy. Just a footnote on one aspect. It's not little, and that is the scope of the plan. There are people who have informed themselves, wrongly of course, that we're dealing with an economic development plan. That is not the case. The plan will contain a section regarding economic development matters, but it is broader than that. It is wider than that. The plan is going to address how we put right a number of issues that now affect the state of the Grenadian society. It is going to address the question of the culture and what we do, how we respond to the challenges to our culture in this period, so that we lift it and lift it and sustain it at its proper and correct level, so that generations of Grenadians would know and understand their identity and their place in history. So that is important. we're talking about spiritual issues, we're talking about the environment. So the plan is, this is what I want to underline, that it is much wider. It's going to be than an economic development plan.
Okay. Before I go into some issues beyond rules of engagement, I just want to clarify, as you sort out the rules of engagement, I see here there was a draft basic protocol for the steering committee to be that has been signed. All the steering committee?
Yes.
All members have?
All members have signed.
Okay, and that basically has to do with the code of conduct and
Yes.
the same issues you were
Yes.
referring to.
Yes.
I also noticed a further protocol related to political parties, and we all know what can happen when political parties collide. Have everybody signed where that is concerned? All the political parties?
Well, there was a ceremony a couple of weeks ago at which we had anticipated all three parties, namely the New National Party, the National Democratic Congress, and the National United Front to sign, having engaged them previously in negotiations on the text.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, at that time, the NDC could not see its way to sign.
Okay.
They have indicated since then their concern for certain provisions to be, well, a particular provision to be included, sorry, and the steering committee has decided that it is going to make further efforts to sit with the NDC and in an attempt to bring it home.
Okay.
So that, but having raised the question of the protocol concerning the political parties, we want to make a few points regarding that. One of them is that the protocol challenges the parties to break new ground. In other words, it is important that the parties do not engage the plan and its process with the traditional adversarial behavior that we know political parties would normally engage in. The protocol challenges them to multi-partisan collaboration. In other words, they work together, cooperate and so on to maintain a depoliticized climate for the production of the plan. And one could see why these things are important. And we add to that the question of, and Petifa raised it, the importance of us at the plan level receiving ideas and recording ideas as distinct from saying, okay, well, this came from party X or party Y. There will be no reflection, and this is very important. When the plan is eventually produced, it is not going to indicate which idea came from whom. The principle we are applying is called ideas over identities.
Okay.
Identities are not important. What is important for the Ghanaian people are the ideas to lift the state of play so that we become stronger, better, and higher, and exist at a higher level. So that is important. And then lastly, we need to learn from what has happened, in particular with the constitutional review work, and so that when we go to the public contributors forums, we do not expect to entertain the parties there.
Okay.
We will, let me put it more simply, the political parties will not speak or make presentations at the public contributors forums. The political parties, as other stakeholders, would have access, or virtually unlimited access, to make as many submissions as they wish directly
At the level of
at
the
the
steering
level of the
committee.
steering committee and working group. So you come there, we schedule you a day. If you're not finished with your agenda and you need more time, we facilitate.
But they will be sitting at the meetings, right? Because you have the part of the steering committee structure.
Oh yes,
So whenever there is a meeting, they will sit at meetings.
But you see, when we sit at the meeting, we are not sitting as wearing hats
Okay.
of this and that. You see, we
It's
have
a
to
steering
evolve into
committee.
something bigger
It's a
than
steering
that.
committee.
That's right. We take instructions and so on as we go through the thing. Where there are important matters, we take instructions from our principals.
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of the foundation that we worked at, how our decision-making criteria. We work these things out. How we're going to make decisions, how we're going to deal with reservations and so on that people might have, and so on and so on. All of these things.
Because I'm looking at the structure in terms of the steering committee with representation from the churches, the trade unions, civil society, private sector, agriculture, and so on. And I'm looking at a scenario which might be a potential pitfall in terms of everyone coming with their agenda from their constituent. So Labour would come with Labour's agenda, civil society will come with their agenda, political parties will come with their agenda, the youth movement will have their agenda. Is that how it was meant to be?
No, and not at all, and that's not what's happening. No, it's not working.
So how do we mitigate against this?
Well, it's not happening at all. I think people have the consciousness that while the of necessity represent different entities, but that the work that is to be done requires a lessening of that identity so that ideas could come forward.
Right.
You see, so we are not battling there. I represent the Conference of Churches, and we're not battling there to have accepted views from the Conference of Churches. We might come there and I might go there and say my principals are putting forward a particular suggestion. Everybody would weigh in on it. If it is not accepted, it's not accepted. You know, I don't take up the marbles and go back and say, well, you know, they accepted, so we in. It's not like that. Okay. And a great point of appreciation.
I'd like to add, I'm glad you raised that issue, Raul. That has not been our experience, and we don't expect for that to happen. I think what we all realize is that we need to operate at a much higher level. The reality is that we have not been making the kind of progress that we could make as a country, as a nation. And we are well aware of our history and the division that exists in our society up to now. We need to reconcile. We need to work together, and that's the only way we can move forward. And I think this, as Joseph loved to say, is a game changer in terms of how we move forward as a nation.
Okay. Because I'm seeing different plans. You have the National Strategic Development Plan from 2007, Alternative Growth and Poverty Reduction Strategy 2013, Growth and Poverty Reduction Strategy 2014. I see some here, well, the Social Compact 2015. So you're working from everything, really.
Yes.
Ideas from everywhere.
Yes. So let's clarify it. These things that whole list exists. So there's a body of material, a body of thinking already concerning Grenada and concerning its development. So sensible people are not going to ignore that. However, because of the special and unique situation that we are faced with, it is important that Plan 2030 is one that is developed by the people, hands-on, directly with their ideas. One might have a little bit of embellishment and polishing. You know, for example, the people might raise 3 points concerning a particular area of policy. And in 2 or 3 of these plans, there might be an additional 2 or 3 points, which might be of merit. So the thinking would be that this technical working group will draw these additional points to the attention of the people, and invite them to accept them.
Okay.
You see, that's how it's going to be. A lot of it is going to be by offer. So the people come and they put their ideas on the table. The steering committee, technical working group, in special cases, would offer ideas for people's consideration. We have to be very, very careful how we manage this, because there is no desire to foist a plan or to foist a set of thinking on the people. Right? There's every desire to develop a plan and to reflect, which reflects the thinking and be faithful to the contributions that the people would have made in the process. So that's where it sits.
What I want to know is so are we at the point? At how soon will we start with the contributors forum? I know you have the different levels to speak to where contributors forum are concerned. Also, soon are we going to see that aspect being rolled out?
Well, right now we're looking at a public relation education plan, and we have invited a number of providers, which we spoke to just yesterday. And they are going to go back based on the brief that we have given them to prepare, submit a plan. So once that we have like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and from then after within the next 3 weeks, we'll probably see that we start having those forums.
So you're developing the public relations arm of this, which is going to be driving the contributors forum?
Yes, so that's important. Let me just footnote that. In advance of the contributors forums, it's going to be a period where the communications providers are going to dedicate upwards of 30, maybe as much as 45 days or so. In that period, we are instructing the provider, whoever we select, to educate the people, the public, on various important issues concerning the plan. For example, the issue of the justification for the plan, the benefits, the principles that we're applying, the state of the nation, and many more of these things that we would like them to propagate with the people. Why? Because the most critical element for us for plan success is to win public confidence. Right? We commenced a few weeks ago and completed a process of public outreach. We appeared on 4 different media platforms in Grenada, during which time we shared with the public the progress we had made regarding towards the plan, and our thinking and so on, touching different elements. And we were able to determine that based on the feedback that we received from people, that there were at least 4 types of people among us relative to the plan in terms of their thinking. There were people who were skeptics. There were people who were fence-sitters. And there were folks who were inclined, but they're not quite there yet.
Apprehension.
Yeah, they're inclined, but they're not on board yet. And then there were people who already embraced the plan, the concept. So we have these 4, and so the challenge for the communications or PR provider, right, as we have laid it out, is to move the majority of those 3 categories into the category of embracers. So that by the time we get to the public forums, contributors forums, the majority of the Grenadian people, we would like to be saying yes to Plan 2030. So they come there now, having been convinced, they understand the vision, they're excited by the vision.
The concept of Plan 2030.
Yes, and so therefore now they want they feel they have the passion now to come and make their contributions, because they believe something fresh and different and positive is happening.
So that's the 45-day challenge, you said?
Yes.
The 45-day challenge.
Yes.
Just to add to that, Raul, based on the feedback that we received as well, there is some people of the opinion that the ordinary man can write or contribute to a plan. And this 45 days is going to demonstrate to people that he can, based on what it is and how we're looking to do it. Because everybody has a vision of what they would like to see, what Grenada should look like in the next 15 years, what the economy should look like, what the morals should be, what how we should develop our country, and they would be able to generate those ideas which will be incorporated in the plan. So everybody does have something to contribute, and they can.
I agree. The 15 years though, why 15 years? Why not 25 years, 30 years, 20 years?
Well, it's stretchable. I mean, I hope that's a correct word. But, Plan 2030 has its own vibes about it.
Okay.
And sometimes the emotional must drive the rational, you see, without causing any danger, any harm. And I think in this case, the feel of Plan 2030, right, is something that is not too far down the road. We should still be here.
I see.
By the grace of
Hopefully.
God. We want to be here, right? If we say 25, we probably won't be here.
Yeah.
You'd be here.
So you don't want to make it a distant, too far away.
Right.
But it's not like tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes.
And having said that, I want to underscore a point that Pettifer raised earlier. A lot of this work that we are engaging in is really about the young people of Grenada. And it's very, very important when we line up the targets, the critical people in the society who we would like to see engaged in working out this plan. The young people feature very, very highly. And we're going to make deliberate efforts. Already, she touched on us involving them at the level of auditing the work of the steering committee. What are we trying to do? We're trying to develop a core of young people who have the passion for this thing. They're around the table, they don't have voting rights, but they're learning.
Okay.
They're learning from older folks and so on, and at the same time that they're learning, they're shaping ideas in their own heads as to how they could contribute to this work.
Okay. So
when we say it's time to roll out, they can hit their social media platforms and help us muscle some stuff through there.
Okay.
They can, they do what young people do,
right, to
get it in. But I just wanted to make the point that so much of Plan 2030 has to be and must reflect the positioning and that the young people must occupy in the life of the country.
Question: what, in your view, is the biggest challenge here towards bringing this plan into fruition, even before we get to the point of implementation?
Well, bringing it to fruition, we don't see. Pettifer might answer for herself, but I do not see any impediments as such. Really, I think that, and we're very proud of this. That the way in which we have dug out and settled the foundation, we believe that the pillars, strong pillars, now could then come out of those foundations.
The reason I asked this question, I was just in a discussion with two pastors for a new program on GIS, and they were highlighting, as we all debate, the problems with society.
Oh, from that point of view.
And I have my views about the problems with society as well. And I'm wondering, because you want buy-in, and you mentioned all the sectoral groups, the youth, but in particular. And some may argue, some school of thought may say, well, there's a disconnect right now between a lot of sectors and even the youth movement. A disconnect. It's almost like we're living in a society with a multiplicity of societies, everybody on their own different gender. So the challenge of connecting everybody and connecting every aspect of society to this one idea. Because there's so many other imposing forces that bring in sections of this society into different directions, particularly the youth.
Yes.
So from that point of view,
now that you've clarified it, I can ride with that much more comfortably. For me, I've argued several times in the past that there are two big problems facing us in Grenada. One is the economic problem, which I believe we can put right. We will never be able to perfect it, but I think we can put it right. In other words, bring as many of the issues under control and proper management, so that we get some movement. I think that we can make some progress there. I think the bigger of the issues for me is the question of the state of the Ghanaian society. The state of the society. That reflects upon what is happening with our culture. This we have now the emergence of what I call an unproductive leisure culture. So many people under 40 or thereabout who are given to fast food and what fun. So much of their resources are given to these things, right? And while that is happening, our culture and its values and its symbols and its those things are being spared. I made a comment to the GBSS graduation the other day when I gave the address there that to say that, you know, the people who make technology, you take an example, the Japanese. A Japanese young worker this morning had his bowl of rice tea before he went to make technology. And he's the maker of technology.
Yeah.
The Grenadian young worker who has to borrow or beg or buy technology say no to bush tea this morning. He doesn't want cocoa tea. So you see the problem that people who are advanced have found a way to preserve. That's all I'm saying. The British and the Japanese and the Germans and so on, the cultural values are entrenched. So modernization hasn't shifted that.
Right.
Why is it dislodging us? You see, in our case, we are being, and we are just absorbers of the thing. We're not creating anything.
And I know it's connected.
And that's the problem.
I know it's connected, but it makes for a massive alternative discussion. But I know there's a connection here. Your thoughts, Patricia?
I think that over the years there has been a serious disconnect between the people who are older and the younger generation. And we could see the breakdown in the society and the culture as a result of that. And I'm seeing that this planned process could help to bring people closer together and have a reconnection and a sharing and an understanding of each other and our position and where we're coming from. And that would probably be one of the things that could help us in terms of fixing the society as it was.
The perfect place at which to insert the tagline, the slogan, if you will, for the vision. Better fun.
Better, higher, stronger together.
You see, better people exist at a higher level of, so our democracy is functioning better, our various systems of governance are functioning better.
Spirituality.
Spirituality is, we're stronger.
Okay.
We're stronger. So the economy has gotten is stronger. We're building it out on many different frontiers and so on. We are embracing opportunities that are out there, right? We are facing challenges and so on, and we're doing all of that together.
Okay, we're heading for the wrap now, but the idea is to have all of this plan in place after the group meetings and so on. When next year sometime? When is the target date?
Yes, it is looking as if it's going to be the third quarter of next year, thereabout, because we're going to engage in the public forum, contributors forum, for quite a while, a couple of months. We have to do that because we have to go across the country, and the mandate calls on us also to the diaspora. So we have to cover all of that. Then there are two or three cycles that we must go through with the people. The first time where we go with a blank slate and they begin to write, and then we take that back and we go to them a second time, having polished that up and so on, and we go back there for additions, consensus on the draft.
Okay.
And then we go a final time now for the approval.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. And just finally, at the level of the approval of the people and we have a plan, what happens now in terms of implementation? How does it work?
The process.
Yes. Well, you see, once the people would have approved the plan, our responsibility as steering committee is to deliver that approved plan to the minister responsible for economic development.
Okay.
Our advice is that the minister will then take it to the cabinet, and the cabinet thereafter will lay it in the parliament and have it passed at the level of the parliament. Now, the plan 2030 can only be implemented by a government in office. And that is why it is important to appreciate that it is neutral when it comes to parties. It doesn't give parties any party advantage here or there. A party only has the authority to implement the plan if it is in office. If it is not in office,
Okay.
you see,
So whoever is in office
implements
implements the
that's
plan.
right. That's
And
right.
if they don't implement the plan,
Ah, the
are they
people-
accountable to the people?
Well,
when they say?
that's right.
Yes.
That's
Okay,
right.
that's why you need public buy-in.
Exactly.
Critical.
Okay.
And just to add that we are developing a website, so all information would be there. But we already have Facebook page
Okay.
that people could go to and get information. So
Okay.
we've already started using the tools that the young people would use.
Okay. All right. So, well, thank you very much for dropping by, William Joseph, Deputy Chair of the Steering Committee, and Pettifer. Thank you very much for dropping by as well and giving us your thoughts. It seems as though it's you all have done quite a lot of work so far in terms of the comprehensive nature of this, and I realize too that based on the issues that we've gone through as a country, we have to put certain mitigating measures in place so that we can have a fair product emerging from this that will benefit people. Any final quick thoughts as we wrap? 10 seconds, 15?
Well, it's time that we stop chasing donkeys
Mm.
and move to a higher place.
Okay.
That's where we want to go.
All right.
Yes.
I think our steering committee and the teams working on this plan will have to demonstrate. We have started and we expect to continue to demonstrate unity and confidence in what we're doing, because it is important that people have confidence, not just in the process, but in a team of people who are guiding that
Okay.
process.
All right. Thank you very much again, William Joseph,
Thank
Deputy
you.
Chair, and Pettifer Lewis Smith, representing the private sector on the steering committee of the National Sustainable Development Plan 2030, Plan 2030. And stay tuned, they're coming to your neck of the woods for Contributors Forum. I'm Roll Titus. Have a good one.
Thank you.